Good morning, grade 6 students. Today we will continue our reading lesson, Hachiko. We are going to read from page 152 to 155. So please open your reading book and read along. Before we continue reading our lesson, we are going to summarize the story events that happened so far in sequential order. The chart below helps you understand the text better, since it briefly states the most important ideas in the story. So we will focus on main ideas rather on details. We'll start. Kentaro was a young Japanese boy who went to the train station with his mom to meet his father. He noticed his dog with white thick fur sitting by a newspaper stand waiting his owner's arrival. When the dog Hachiko saw Dr. Ueno, the friend of Kentaro's dad, he quivered with delight. Kentaro fell in love with the dog, and he went to the station almost every day to see Hachiko and feed him morsels from his lunch. One day, Kentaro realized that his dad was sad, and he knew that something was wrong. Papa told him that Dr. Ueno had died that morning in the university. At night, Kentaro and his dad went to the station to find Hachiko curled up by the newspaper stand waiting to see Dr. Ueno. In the morning, when Kentaro went to the station to check on Hachiko, he couldn't find him. His dad told him that Dr. Ueno's relatives took him several miles away to live with them. And now, since we summarized the events, we can continue reading our lesson. We don't have room for a dog, protested Papa. And Hachiko really belongs to Dr. Ueno's relatives now that Dr. Ueno is dead. Hachiko is better off having a home than sitting in a train station. But Hachiko had other ideas. A few days later, he was back at Shibuya Station, patiently waiting, his brown eyes fixed on the entrance. Hachiko had run back to his old home and from there to Shibuya Station. Mama and Papa let me take food and water to Hachiko every day. Mama grumbled a bit about the food, saying we couldn't afford to feed a big bear like Hachiko, but she always seemed to cook more rice than we could eat. And as you see, the word grumbled means nagged or complained. Page 153. Other people at the station took an interest in Hachiko. Men and women who rode Papa and Dr. Ueno's train stopped by to scratch his ears and say a few kind words. One day, I saw an old man filling Hachiko's water bowl as Hachiko licked his hand. The old man's hair was streaked with gray, and he was stooped as if he had spent most of his life bent over the ground. In this line, bent over is the meaning of stooped. But his eyes were as sharp, as bright as Hachiko's. Are you young Kentaro? The old man asked. I nodded. I am Mr. Kobayashi. I was Dr. Ueno's gardener. Dr. Ueno told me that you and Hachiko often wait for the afternoon train together. Do you still take care of the house where Dr. Ueno lived? I asked. We will try to answer a few questions together after we have read pages 152 and 153. But first of all, why do authors write? What is the reason for them to write, or what is the purpose of writing? Authors write for different reasons. They may write to persuade readers to think or to act in a particular way, or They may write to inform or explain something. It means to give us information about something that we don't know. They may also write to entertain or express feeling. It shows us our sad or happy feelings. An author may have multiple purposes or reasons. 1. What is the author's purpose or purposes in Hachiko? The author has included factual information about the setting and about Hachiko. Factual, it means something that is fact, that is true. But she also includes imaginary details. I think her purposes are to inform the reader about Hachiko and also to entertain with an interesting story. So please keep these things in mind. Details that provide information that could be true show that the author's purpose is to inform. And details that make you feel strong emotions or interest show that the author's purpose is to entertain. 2. What do Kentaro's actions on pages 152, 153 reveal about his character? Cite examples from the text to verify your evaluation. Kentaro is a caring child. He takes food and water to Hachiko every day. This is from paragraph 3, page 152, which shows that he wants to make sure that Hachiko is well taken care of. Number 3. Which details on pages 152-153 provide information about Hachiko that is probably not factually accurate? Infer why the author included these details anyway. The information about Kentaro's mom grumbling about giving food to Hachiko is probably not factually accurate. The author may have included these details to develop the characters and make the story more interesting. Number 4. Find a word with the suffix ly on page 152. Patiently. What is the meaning of patiently? Since the suffix ly means in a certain manner, then patiently means in a patient manner. Patiently means suffering without becoming annoyed or anxious. And this is the way that Hachiko was waiting for his owner. He was waiting patiently. Pages 154 and 155 will reveal for us what happened to Hachiko. Yes, said Mr. Kobayashi. Hachiko comes back to the house every night to sleep on the porch. But in the morning, he walks to the station just like he did with Dr. Ueno. When the last train leaves the station, he returns home. We were both silent. Then I asked, "Do you think Hachiko knows that Dr. Ueno died?" Mr. Kobayashi said thoughtfully, "I don't know, Kentaro. Perhaps he still hopes that Dr. Ueno will return someday. Or perhaps he knows that Dr. Ueno is dead, but he waits at the station to honor his master's memory." As the years passed and Hachiko got older, he became very stiff and he could barely walk to Shibuya Station. But still he went every day. People began collecting money to build a statue of Hachiko at the station. Papa and Mama and I all gave money, and we were very happy when the statue was placed next to the spot where Hachiko had waited for so many years. One chilly morning, I woke to the sound of Mama crying. "What's wrong?" I asked as I stumbled into the kitchen. Papa sat silently at the table, and Mama turned her tear-stained face to me. "Hachiko died last night at Shibuya Station," she choked, still waiting for Dr. Ueno. I was 17 and too big to cry, but I went into the other room and did not come out for a long time. Later that day, we all went to the station. To our great surprise, Hachiko's spot near the newspaper stand was covered in flowers placed there by his many friends. Here are some questions of pages 154 and 155. In number 1, we will read 2 statements and we will find out if these statements are statements of fact or statements of opinion. Please pay attention to the clue words found. Perhaps he still hopes that Dr. Ueno will return someday. Or perhaps he knows Dr. Ueno is dead, but he waits at the station to honor his master's memory. Are these statements of fact or statements of opinion? How do you know? They are statements of opinion because of the word perhaps, and because Mr. Kobayashi cannot know that Hachiko is thinking. There is no way to prove Mr. Kobayashi's statements are true or false. 2. Use word structure to determine the meaning of the word thoughtfully on page 154. I know that the word thoughtful means full of thought or thinking. And I know that the suffix ly means in a certain manner. So, thoughtfully must mean in a thoughtful manner or in a way that shows the person is thinking. I can confirm that this definition is accurate by checking it in a dictionary. Now, if you go back with me to number 1 and look at this expression, to honor his master's memory, what do you think this expression means? We should know that to honor someone means to show respect for a person after he or she has died. And here, Hachiko wants to honor or to show respect for Dr. Ueno after he has died. Number 3. When Kentaro comes into the kitchen, his father is sitting silently. This is found on page 154. What adjective does silently come from, and what does silently mean? Silently comes from the adjective silent, which means without noise. And since silently has the suffix ly, which means in a certain manner, so silently means in a silent manner. Number 4. What can you conclude from Kentaro's statement on page 155? I was 17 and too big to cry, but I went into the other room and did not come out for a long time. I conclude that Kentaro is sad about Hachiko's death, but feels he is too old to cry openly. In the privacy of his room, he likely allowed himself to cry. Your assignment for this week is to read pages 152 to 155 and to apply page 84, Fact and Opinion, in your notebook. Thank you and see you soon.